just a few seconds and then we'll start shortly. And yeah, let's start. So hi everyone, bonjour, Anine, Seko. Welcome to this session called Data from the Deep. My name is Ludivine. I'm the bilingual program manager at EcoSchools Canada, and I will be facilitating the session today with Georgia and Marina from University of Toronto, who will be here with us. So as I said, like some people are still joining, if you want to introduce yourself in the chat box and the land, traditional land you are from, that would be amazing. I am originally from France and I moved to Canada over 10 years ago now. I'm joining today from Toronto, covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of a credit. As I learned actually during Ecom, the Michaza gig, and the dish with one spoon, one pound bell covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee, the Anishinaabe, and allied nations to peaceably share and care for the lands and resources around the Great Lakes. I want to say Chimigwech to Nibi, the land and the air that I'm privileged to enjoy every day with my family. So now it's my pleasure to introduce our three presenters today. So Lauren Hudson, as a K-12 education coordinator at Ocean Networks Canada and a teacher with a passion for environmental education, Lauren loves continually learning about our incredible ocean. We also have Monika Pelz, who's an education and engagement coordinator with Ocean Networks Canada and a part-time teacher who enjoys connecting students to the wider world. And finally, Jennifer Putland, with a research background in biological oceanography and experience teaching students from middle schools to university. Jennifer enjoys working on improving ocean literacy at Ocean Networks Canada. So now I'm handing it over to you, Free, for your presentation.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for the warm welcome. We may look like we have a little bit of sleep in our eyes. It's a little early over here. We're on the West Coast, but we woke up just for you. So we are very happy to be here. And we are joining you from the traditional territory of the Songhees, Esquimalt, and WSÁNEĆ peoples. So we would like to acknowledge those territories. And we're very grateful to think about this as our shared responsibility to keep sustainability in mind, and as has been done by peoples for thousands of years on these lands. So a little outline for what we're going to do today. We are going to start out with some introductions about Ocean Networks Canada and let you know what we do. And we are across Canada, so we'll talk about that. We're going to share some scalar data, talk about the importance of data, and share with you the Oceans 2.0 platform that we have that you can access anywhere around the world. And then we have an activity for you to try, and we'll do some question and answers at the end. We actually have a way for you can use the chat for sure, but you can also use a tool that we're going to show you called Menti, where you can input your questions, and we'll use those at the access those at the end. So don't be shy. There's 3 of us here, and we are very happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, if you don't put anything in the chat for us to talk about, then we have to play like I Spy with the audience, which is the worst, because you'd be like, I see someone who looks really smart. And unfortunately, that's everybody, so it makes it really difficult. So you might as well put some questions in the chat. Keeps me out of trouble, keeps the conversation more interesting. I come up with more descriptors. You know how it is.
Excellent. So let's jump.
Okay, we've just lost Lauren. Lauren, are you there?
Yep.
Oh, you got all pixely. Say that last line again.
I was just going to say, here's the Menti code. So menti.com, and you can enter in the passcode 51572177. And that'll be, thank you to Marina, that's in the chat as well. So you can go ahead there, or you can also use the chat. All right, so a little bit about what Ocean Networks Canada is all about. So here traditional ocean exploration has been done by ship. So, it's great to go out to the sea, but it's very expensive and you don't get to go out very often. So we have technology on our side. So using all sorts of really cool technology, we have been able to place nodes, which are these big yellow things on the bottom of the sea floor in key areas. And those nodes collect scientific information, including really cool images like you're seeing here, hydrothermal vents, tube worms, all sorts of neat things. We get to observe these all the time in real time and are able to go out and maintain those tools a couple of times a year. But this has been really earth-shattering, new kind of stuff because we're able to see what's happening all the time. And that previously wasn't a thing. We would only be able to get out to see on these expeditions every once in a while. So up close, here's a node, and it's basically like a underwater electrical outlet. And we can plug in, depending on the area, different kinds of instruments. So how do we maintain those is, next slide, please. We have ROVs. So the ROVs, it stands for remotely operated vehicle. They're quite large. They're about the size of a small car. They can do the work for us underneath the ocean. And they are able to maintain the equipment. Next slide, please. And like I said, the different locations may need different kinds of instrumentation looked at. So we have a whole suite of different kinds of tools that are collecting information about the ocean. And this is really important because it gives us baseline data and information that allows us to make informed decisions about what's happening under the ocean. So when you don't have that all the time, you can't necessarily make informed decisions. So we've been in operation for 15 years now, and the information is collected and put in our portal that we're going to show you later. Next slide, please. We have instrumentation in a number of different areas. This is a map of just part of the network, but you see a nice big loop. If you were to walk that, it'd be about 850 kilometers around and in different zones. Maybe you can put in the chat why you think those locations were selected. There are a number of different reasons why those places were selected. And it's interesting to think about why that is so. The orange dots are where those nodes are at the ocean floor. Yeah, we do have hydrophones, so that collects sounds from marine mammals. Some salmon monitoring. We do have turbidity sensors. So the turbidity sensors measure how much stuff components are in the water, which is important for some of that migratory fish species. Next slide, please. So that's just part of our network. We actually have community observatories and infrastructure across Canada from coast to coast to coast. Just in COVID times, actually, we have installed in partnership in Newfoundland, an observatory in Newfoundland, also in the Arctic, and up and down the coast in various communities. You bet water temperature and depth are recorded, and we can see how those different components as they change with different factors. So all that data is available. Next slide, please. So this is the neat thing about this is we're visual creatures. So you'd think that the one of the coolest things about the observatories is you get to see neat creatures, and that that sounds like just a neat wow factor, but in fact, the cameras have allowed us to observe events and change our thinking about creatures that we didn't know could do certain things. So, for example, we've seen mass migrations of crabs, and scientists were like, "Wow, we don't know why this happens." We've also been able to see creatures that we didn't expect could go down to certain depths, going down to certain depths. So the cameras are pretty funky. So that's kind of one of the first tools that's really neat and useful to science, in fact. We have a colleague who's studying seasonality of different species and being able to collect all sorts of information through the cameras. We also have funky tools like an accelerometer. On our coast here, we live in an earthquake zone, and the accelerometer is one of the tools that we use that helps us detect if there's earthquakes. Hydrophone array, someone mentioned orcas. Yes, the hydrophone arrays take sound and record the sound. We have about 500 different instruments, so we've just selected a few here to show you today. The shore camera and weather station also gives us information which can be paired with what we're seeing below the ocean, so it's pretty fun.
I'm just going to jump in here, Lauren. You've done a great job because there's a little bit of a misconception in the chat. Someone is asking about the Great Lakes. We actually don't have any freshwater nodes yet, but we hope to. So we are collecting data across Canada, but there aren't any nodes. What you may be looking at on the map is our backup data session. If nobody's mentioned it to any West Coasters, we live in a seismically active area. We are overdue for an earthquake. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So we had a good look at Canada and decided, oh, look, a flat place where basically all you can have is some, shaking, that kind of stuff. So we've backed up our data in different places. But as of now, we actually don't have freshwater data. So I just wanted to catch that misconception. That being said, I really do emphasize as of now, because the network is continually growing. And if people tell us that Canadians tell us that there's a demand for that kind of data, those are the things that we look into developing. Many of our networks were placed because of the involvement of communities and the need for data.
That's great. So that's actually perfect segue. Thanks, Monika. So we do have a number of community collaborations since 2012. We've been partnering with coastal communities to plan community observatories. And often these communities are with Indigenous partners. We also have a community fishers program where instrumentation and training are provided, and citizens go out and perform their own data collection, and we help with a data plan and that kind of things. We also co-create materials. So in this conference today, I'm assuming that there are some teachers and informal educators. So one of those community collaborations is the co-creation of materials in our Ocean Sense program. So Ocean Sense, next slide, please. Ocean Sense is a number of different resources that are planned in partnership with Aboriginal educators, teachers, and knowledge holders. There's going to be a whole bunch of clicks. I forgot to take the transitions out. So we want to engage teachers and students with multiple ways of knowing, and sharing that science and Indigenous knowledge is equally important. And also these resources connect with the curriculum. And the process is that we connect with partners, we create ideas and concepts, we curate those ideas and knowledge, and then we pilot those resources in community, review them, and then publish them eventually on our website. And it's some of the challenges we have, or languages, putting it in multiple languages or not, what pieces are represented, distributing them, and what's being learned. So it's a continually evolving process. So that's kind of Ocean Orcs Canada and some of our quick 14 minutes. Lakes, whales, and orcas. This is an example of some data that we are able to collect. That's great. So, yeah. So that's it from me. I'm going to put some links in the chat where you can access some of those images and sounds that you can use as well. And I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Jennifer. Thank you.
Jennifer, you're muted. Jennifer, you're muted.
That would help. It's too early in the morning.
You understand why I have the pail of coffee?
We are on the West Coast. It is early Saturday morning. I apologize. All right, so I am Jennifer Putland, and I'm going to talk about scalar data. Scalar data is quantitative data for any number of variables that we have streaming from our network. All right, so why would you want to include scalar data into your classroom lessons? Well, there's a couple of good reasons. One of them is that it provides a more realistic view of nature. And by doing this, it deepens the students' understanding of nature. In viewing that variability of nature, it provides students with a better appreciation of the scientific process. Secondly, it gives them an opportunity to practice data analysis and interpretation. And this is especially possible because of the fact that observatories host a suite of co-located instruments measuring physics, geology, chemistry, and biology of the ocean. And, you know, by doing these types of data analysis interpretation, it also allows the students to develop cognitive skills as per Bloom's taxonomy. And it leads to more questions and inquiries. So it's a great addition to your classroom teaching. And so who is this for? Well, I envision it being for teachers who want to scaffold, you know, a challenge activity with their students or their classroom. And I think it's also useful for those intrinsically motivated students, which are typically the high school students. So a couple of solid reasons to use scalar data in your classroom. So I have a few examples of how you could incorporate scalar data into your classroom lessons on the ocean. Okay, so let's say that you're teaching about coastal upwelling. So coastal upwelling, as a refresher, is the upward vertical movement of cold, nutrient-rich water into surface sunlit waters. And this movement of water results from wind and current direction and the Coriolis effect. And it's seen here in this left diagram. And the other one is the opposite, called downwelling, which is caused by the transport of water, in this case, onto the coast. So a good observatory to see evidence of coastal upwelling is Folger Passage, which is at the entrance to Barkley Sound here on the west coast of Vancouver Island. Now Folger, as I said, it's on the west coast of Vancouver Island here, and like other locations on the west coast of Vancouver Island, it experiences upwelling favorable winds and currents during the summertime. So let's look at some data. Whoops, I did not want to do that. Sorry. Just a second. Oh, here we go. Okay, so here on the top, we've got some temperature data over a multi-year period. And what you can see, so the black bars denote winter time. And what you can see is that in the summertime, that location experiences cold water temperatures. And these cold water temperatures, these low temperatures, are due to the upwelling of that cold, nutrient-rich water into those sunlit waters. And that leads to the blooming of phytoplankton.
Healthy.
That's shown here.
This is an audio slate.
Sorry about that. In this particular video here on the left. So that green water is the phytoplankton blooming, which then supports the entire food web. including the active, productive fishery along the west coast of Vancouver Island. Now, when your students are examining data like this, they should notice that the temperatures are not the same between years. And this is an example of the variability in nature. And that should prompt the students to ask further questions and expand their inquiry. For example, why are temperatures in the wintertime different between years? So that's one example. Okay, so here's another example. Let's say you're teaching about tides in your classroom. So tides, as a refresher, are the rhythmic rise and fall of the ocean at a particular location due to the gravitational forces from the sun and the moon. There are different tidal patterns, and one of them is shown here, a very common one called the mixed tidal pattern, where there are two high tides of unequal height and two low tides of unequal height. So a good observatory to see evidence of tides is Campbell River, shown here. And Campbell River actually has some pretty strong tides. And what you see here is a little video of the observatory at Campbell River, and it's designed to withstand the force of those strong tides. See the camera there. Okay, so at Campbell River actually has a mixed tidal pattern. Okay, so two highs and two lows of unequal height. And the tidal currents are highest mid-ebb, that's when the tide is going out, and mid-flood when the tide is coming in. So let's just look at some videos that were taken from the Campbell River Observatory to just show what's going on during those mid-ebb and mid-floods. You can see at mid-ebb and mid-flood, it's pretty rapid tidal current. Whereas during the low slack right here, it's not really very rapid at all. Now, similar to upwelling, tides impact abiotic factors. So these are factors like temperature, nutrients, oxygen, and these abiotic factors in turn impact the biology. So let's just look at some data from the Campbell River Observatory. This can be a little stubborn to move along. There we go. So this is some data from the Campbell, and I apologize, there's a lot of information here, but bear with me. So yes, so this is some information data from Campbell River for a few days in February, and I've got just the lunar progression up on the top there. And what you can see here is some, the very low, the bottom figure here is depth. Then we've got here, the next one up, I hope you can see my cursor, is oxygen. The next one up is temperature. Then we've got turbidity, and then we have chlorophyll, which is an indication of the amount of phytoplankton in the water. All right, so now, if the students were to focus just on the ebb tide, the mid-ebb tide, that's these black bars here, what they would notice is that during the mid-ebb tide, there is an increase in oxygen and a decrease in temperature. These are two abiotic factors that impact biology. And so that should prompt the students to inquire as to why temperature and oxygen react this way during an ebb current. That's a repeated event that happens during every ebb current. That's for a few days in February. And then we can look at the same kind of data for a few days in July. And so here we have the same kind of data, and the students can perform the same kind of data analysis and interpretation, and they should find that at this time of year, the pattern is a little bit different during that ebb current. The oxygen again goes up, but the temperature goes up. And so that difference should prompt the students to ask further questions and expand their inquiry. For example, why is there a difference in temperature response between February and July during that ebb tidal current? So that's just one example of how you could use this scalar data when you're teaching about tides. Okay, one more example, and I'm going to pass it off to Monika. Let's say that you're teaching about climate change, and you're looking at the impact of climate change on the Arctic ice cap. So we know from data from the National Snow and Ice Data Center that the ice cap in the Arctic is shrinking. But how else might sea ice be changing in the Arctic? A good place to look for that would be our observatory, the ONC Observatory in Cambridge Bay. I'm just going to play this video here. We've had ONC deployed an observatory in Cambridge Bay in 2013. And this observatory is equipped with an instrument that monitors the thickness of sea ice and allows us to also determine when the ice is freezing up and when it is melting. It also has a suite of other instruments on it, as you can see in this little cartoon. This site also has a meteorological station. And here it's measuring air temperature, humidity, sunshine, that kind of thing. And here's some video footage from that station showing this. It does show the seasonal progression of sea ice. Specifically here in this video, it's looking at the springtime and how quickly the ice melts in the late spring, early summer. All right, so let's look at some data from Cambridge Bay. So here we have on the very top panel, we have thickness. This is meters of ice, the seasonal progression of sea ice thickness. And then we've got light here on the middle panel, and the bottom panel, we have chlorophyll. Now, I just want to go back up to the ice thickness here, and it is a repeated pattern. And what we see is that ice begins to form in the fall. It reaches its peak thickness in about May, and then over a period of about 2 weeks to a month, it melts away. And it does that rather abruptly, as you also saw in that video. And then there's this clear water phase, and that repeats quite consistently year after year. So your students can examine this data for trends and the relationship between these variables, and they should be able to conclude that there is this strong seasonal cycle of sea ice formation and breakup, but that there's no real yet a discernible trend in the thickness of the ice or the timing of breakup and freeze up. You know, for some time there, we thought that there was thinning of the ice, but then it popped back up in 2019. We're keeping a close look for this year. So there's possibly a trend, but, you know, with some scaffolding, students should conclude that an 8-year data set is really not long enough to detect long-term changes in sea ice thickness and the timing of formation and breakup. So we have a climate lesson. And in that climate lesson, we introduce students to the traditional ecological knowledge shared by Inuit. And that traditional knowledge was acquired over thousands of years. And it tells a very different story of sea ice change in the Arctic. And we'd be happy to talk to you more about that. It is a free virtual presentation that we do give to classrooms. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm going to hand it over to Monika because she's going to tell you how you can get to this data. Thank you.
Okay, I'm engaged. I'm ready. Alrighty. Jennifer, I'm actually going to share my screen.
Okay.
Others hosted. Yeah. Do you want to continue? Yes, I'd like to continue. I want I want, nope, guys. All right, oh, hold on. It's my first day, There we go. All right, there we go. Can we see Oceans 2.0? Perfect. Alrighty, so as Jennifer mentioned, we have a ton of data, and it's got all sorts of things that can be used in the classroom, and I'm gonna show you how to access it. Now, I am gonna preface this ahead of time. I will let you know that I once had a scientist, and they were describing their relationship with the Oceans 2.0 data portal. He said, you know, I would go out and I would take a sample, and it was like pouring a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon. I would take it and I would look at it and I would see it and I would smell it and I would get some data from it and I would enjoy it. Ocean Networks Canada is also providing Cabernet Sauvignon, but they are providing it through a fire hose. There is a lot of data available, so I'm just going to show you some examples and how to access it. But what I want to emphasize is that if you're finding it overwhelming, don't worry, us too. Send us an email. We're happy to connect with you. We're happy to walk you through it. We're happy to do some tutorials. There are tutorials online as well. Our goal is to make data accessible to you, and we understand that, you know, maybe this quick little session is gonna, you know, give you a little, you know, sniff of the cork, as it were, for that Cabernet Sauvignon. But if you'd like to actually engage with it and you're having trouble, please don't be shy. Reach out to us. Now, without further ado, let me take you through this. So when you go to the Ocean Networks Canada webpage, there's a couple of different places that you can go. And one of them is data preview, which again, I've got some little videos to show you. Now, the cool thing about data preview is that you don't have to sign in, and it's going to curate the data for you on a day or a month, depending on what you click on. It's also going to give you a little bit of background. So again, here you've got Arctic, Atlantic, mobile platforms. So this is a really nice way to kind of just check it out, see what's there, as it were. Let's see here, there we go. You'll notice that I've got things like a data search, data preview, plotting utility C-tube. Those are all different tools that you can use in Oceans 2.0. And again, here we've got this lovely red circle. Those are all the places that the data can be from. And you can change your filters from either instruments by location or different types of instruments. Again, there's lots of opportunities here to use it. I prefer to use the tree, which I will demonstrate for you as well. But again, you can do by location, things like that. All right, come on. There is a login button. If you choose to log in, there's some benefits to that. One being that it will remember you. And so if you're looking for a data set and something happens, it will hold on to it. If your students want a big chunk of data, more than 3 months, it will save it for them. If you want to download videos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do you have to log in? No. Is it worth it? Yes. The other really nice thing about the login for teachers, I know that privacy is a big concern for students and teachers. And so one of the things that it does is it doesn't send you any emails. It doesn't send any alerts or anything. It's not a communication login. It's just a verification that you're the same user. So your students can put in their email without worrying about security, which is really, really great. And they can put it in without worrying about spam, because, you know, there's always spam. Once you select a data source, so for example, I'll walk you through this one here. There we go. I've selected a day and I've selected, oh, actually I put this here first. Notice that there's this scary looking red box. One of the things that the data portal will do is it will always tell you the health of the data. So this one is basically just indicating that there was a fault in the data, and the value of this is that your students might say, oh, there's a gap in the data, or there's a space, or there's something missing. This will tell you if that's a recognized event, or maybe, as Jennifer said, there's something that the students need to investigate. And so this is just, again, more information. As I mentioned, it's a bit of a fire hose, but the goal here is to make sure that the data you're getting is as informative as possible. Come here, you. oops, sorry, here we go. I wanted to show you here as well. I was using the tree, so I've gone to the Ocean Networks Canada. This is from the Pacific, and this is from North Coast, Douglas Channel, Kitimat Village, and it's on temperature. This one here, slightly different. I am looking at a different data set. And so again, it's just coming up depending on which ones I click. So again, this is Pacific, and originally I had the North Coast. Now I've got the Northeast Pacific Ocean. So again, your students can click through different pictures and see different types of data. Sorry, every time the chat pops up, it defaults to that, and that's why it keeps giving me this. So I have to click on my slides again. There we go. There we go. My different location. Data search. Now it's fresh hot and there's a heck of a lot. There is a ton of data, and I've got a little video that will show you how to use it, and I'll just walk us through this, and then I will show you live as well. And like I said, there's tons of resources available if this quick little tutorial is too quick. Alrighty, so what we're going to do, come on you. We're going to select our data type. So we'd like the ICE profiler. We're going to select this data source. Come on. We're going to basically do a little bit of online shopping. We're going to come in here. Come on. Okay, I'm going to close this. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to close the viewing box because I can see you folks. So Lauren, if people are making faces, if they're looking unusual, if they're waving with just one finger, please yell and scream at me because I really need to know. But I have to close it because it's just taken up. Yeah, it's just taken up my clicking. Alrighty, so here we go. I've got the different types of data here. So I can select scalar data. As Jennifer mentioned, I can click time series. It's basically like online shopping. I'm going to select what I want. Now, the important thing to be aware of is, come on, purple arrow, there we go, is that the data set that you pick, it will give you everything that's available. It will give you a little sliver. So you can pick up here what time series you want. So for example, if I want the last 24 hours, if I want 3 months, it doesn't really matter, but I can go in and I can change that. If I don't go in and change it, I may want to just double check that it's not giving me an entire 8-year system. As we mentioned, the ICE profiler has been in the water for a while. So if you set it for 8 years, it will give you 8 years. Once I've selected my data source, so again, I went up here and I changed the date. I wanted May 1st to August 31st. I've selected that I would like both a PNG and a PDF. You can select all of these. You can select one of these, doesn't really matter. You can have as much or as little as you like. And down here it's asking me if I'd like clean data or average data or raw data. I suggest leaving it at clean and average, but again, it's your data. You can decide what you'd like. Generally though, this is going to give you kind of the best quality. I'm going to hit add to cart, and what I'm going to see is a cart like this. Basically, my data is going to pop up here. This is the type that I've asked for. So I've asked for Ocean Networks Canada, Arctic, Cambridge Bay, Underwater Network, ICE Profiler, May to August, and I want time series. I'm going to click yes, please. Check out all, and my view is not going to change very much. It's just going to come down here and it's going to say running. And then, come on. I'm going to get my data. There we go. So this is an example of what I asked for. So I had asked for the ICE draft uncorrected, and it's giving it to me. This is a PNG. I can also get it as a PDF. So again, this is just an example. And I asked for May 1st, which will be on the left, and then August 30th will be on the right. So I actually selected the melt period. So I knew that it was frozen in May, and then as you can see, as Jennifer mentioned, there's a really, there's a feedback loop and it melts very quickly. Let's just go through that super quickly as a video. I promise it's like 2 minutes, just so you can see it in action. Going to our website, hitting data and tools. Again, this is where all of our data and tools are. You've got data preview, plotting utility, CTube, data search. Gonna head over there. it's going to take just a minute to give me my instruments by location. And just while this is playing, one thing I will mention and clarify is that we bring in about 1 terabyte of data per day. So it does take a moment for the system to kind of collate everything. So patience is absolutely necessary in this. Again, here I'm going through, I've got ICE profiler. I want this data source. Now, a couple of options. I could again go up here and change the calendar day. I can also click and drag to see if there's data in the time series that I want. So again, this zoomed in for me and it shows me, yep, the data is good, it's there. I'm going in to select May. I can go in and type it in, or I can do a scroll, which you'll see in a second here. So again, if I just want to use the buttons, I can do that. I never did learn what order the months come in, so you'll see me go to May. Oh, no, think about it. Wait, I want August, which comes after May. There we go. You can actually see my thought process, which is, you know, here we go. Here I am. I'm looking, what data do I want? Where is it? Pause for effect. There we go. That's what I'd like. So I grab that data, click add to cart, go to my cart as if I'm online shopping. Yep, I'd like to buy that. Checkout, and it's going to submit. Now I did pause the video here because again, I've asked it for a section of data out of, again, we've been running for 8 years, terabyte a day. Overall, it takes about 5 minutes for this data to come in. But again, I've shortened it just for the purpose of the presentation. Again, if I want a whole lifetime's worth of data, I can have that. I just have to anticipate that it will take some time to load. So again, here's an example of that data. Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to just say it out loud that the data is free. So you're
yes.
shopping, but paying. So that's just in that analogy there.
Yes, exactly. It is free. All right, let's see here. Nope, we already did this one. Come on now. All righty. So now the next tool that I'm going to show you is very, very similar, but slightly different, and it is our C-tube. Now, C-tube is my particular favorite tool, and as Lauren mentioned right at the beginning, we are visual animals, and of course, visual is my favorite, and I also really like it because, again, we have about, I don't know, 100,000 hours of data through C-tube, which again, I find it accessible for students. They really enjoy watching the videos and engaging with it and having a look at what's there. But again, tons of stuff here. And so this one, I'm just gonna take you through very quickly. Let me just check on the chat here. All right, just a heads up, there's 2 minutes left. Okay, good, I can talk fast. All righty, so this one here is C-tube. So again, data preview, data search, plotting utility, C-tube, that's the one I've clicked. And again, it's just going to bring it up for me again, which is totally fine. There is a tutorial that will start right away. Different things that you can do in this tool super quick. All of our cruises, our expeditions are recorded here. And so again, I can pick any one of these. It will give me the entire cruise. So for example, if I want this one, which was in October, it's going to bring it up for me. And this particular dive, it's got a 15-minute section here, but this particular dive is probably in the neighborhood of maybe 20, 30 hours. And I know that because it's at least a 4-hour trip down and 4-hour trip back. The really cool thing is that you can see on the comments here, anytime something is seen on camera, it is recorded. And this is done by human eyes. We actually watch the video and we see what's happening. And the reason for that is it allows us to capture when something goes by. So for example, someone saw here a swordfish. Now, rather than watching all those hours and hours of video, what we've got is a tool up here, search all videos. So I can go up here and I can search, for example, for an octopus. And I'm gonna hit search. It's gonna say loading. This is, again, it's fairly quick. Famous last words. It's gonna be 10,000 people looking. Here we go. So it's going to give me the oldest data first, unless I ask for slightly different order, which I can reorder it. So again, in March, we went out in we went out in March, and there's an octopus on the Titan, which is a piece of equipment. I'm going to click on it, and what you're going to hear is the voice of the crew talking, because one of the things that we do is we make sure that we broadcast. So here we go. Here is an octopus. Yep. And we can hear the scientists talking about it. And of course, sometimes they like to joke around. They do know that they are being publicly broadcast, so they know, they're not going to say anything that you're going to have to explain to your students later using diagrams and big words. They're going to say things that are kind of scientifically accurate and a little bit fun. So again, we've got this octopus here. This search tool can give you all sorts of different things. Other things that you might want to try are things like highlight. Those will give you different pictures. Now, in the last minute, the other option is that if we get rid of cruises, is we can do it by location. Now, location is great because it will give us, for example, the Arctic, Cambridge Bay. We can have a look at the underwater network. We can see what's happening under the ice. It can also give us things like, if we go to the Pacific, the Northeast Pacific Ocean, the North Coast, we can do things like Hartley Bay, and Hartley Bay is a really great one. We've actually had an octopus hanging out in Hartley Bay as well. And that one has been really neat to see. Now, the main difference here is, again, there's my data, check it out, got some fishes. There's no annotations down here. And the reason for that is the data is essentially raw. It comes in, basically it's meant to record as quickly, it's meant to record at a set time every single day. And so that's what this is the data every single day. It's not watched, so we can't search it. That being said, you can check it out and see if you can spot anything interesting. Again, that's tons of information. I'm going to stop there because we've only got a few minutes left. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to head back to the presentation, and I'm going to jump over to, thank you. Now is an opportunity for questions. So I'm going to stop the share so we can see folks. There we go.
We have 2 minutes for questions.
Great. And we do have a couple of questions that have come in through the Menti, which is awesome. So I'll just go ahead and start with those right now. The first question was, how often do you take ocean diving trips? So we go out approximately 2 times a year to maintain that network of scientific instruments. So we'll have a cruise coming up in June, I believe, and then another one in September. And often we'll broadcast those dives live, so you can come and check those out. And then at the end of the cruise, we'll have like cruise highlights and stuff. And all of those are available on the YouTube channel. So there's the dive deep with the data, and then also the YouTube channel, kind of like the best of the best. The second question is, do you offer to help with incorporating data into the lessons? So Jennifer or Monika, want to take that one?
Sure.
Short answer, yes.
The short answer is yes. So again, if you send us an email, you can send it to learning@oceannetworks.ca. We do. It depends a little bit on time and investment. So what we mean by that is, if you're looking for a little bit, I need a quick video clip, we'll probably send you to our YouTube, because that is the best spot to get a quick digested clip that you can put in. We can help you with search terms, things like that. If you're working on a project that's going to reach several hundred students, we can do it in a partnership where, it's back and forth, and we work together on crafting everything from, the opening to the middle of it to the closing. It really depends. The best thing to do is shoot us an email, and we can start having that conversation. And then from there, we can figure it out. We certainly won't leave you, pardon the ocean pun, high and dry. We will help you get some data for your lesson in some capacity.
And the very last question is it possible to access this anywhere in the world? And yes, it's all available online. So you can just go to the internet and check that out. We are offering free virtual presentations right now. We have some online forms. Easiest way right now is just to give us a shout at learning@oceannetworks.ca. It is time up.
Yes.
So if you have any other questions, please get in touch and enjoy the rest of your conference.
Thank you very much. It was amazing, and thank you for the three of you for bringing that to us. And thank you everyone for attending this session. We encourage you to attend more sessions. We have a whole day of amazing speakers coming. So thank you all, and have a good day. Bye.
Thanks. Thank you.